Hi, I've got a love story for you. It's Dora's story. The love story is between Dora and her husband, Richard De Luca, my guest today. It's going to be an interesting story about the ups and downs of marriage and how these two young people, way back when, made it. And today is the day that Richard shares a book he wrote about Dora called Dora S Story. Very happy to introduce to you Richard De Luca, faculty member emeritus of William Patterson University. Welcome, Rich.
Thank you very much, Robert. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you. We've known each other quite a while, right?
A number of years, yeah, because remember Dora and I took your students to the Eva's Village for a couple of years, and even before that we were coming to your masses.
Right.
Of course, among other things, Dora said you were her favorite preacher. So,
That's great.
That's the truth.
I always liked Dora.
Yeah.
She had good taste.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to start in the beginning.
Okay.
And when I was talking to Barbara Stomber, who spoke
Yes.
at Dora's funeral,
Right.
we were just talking. I said, I wanted you to be here, but she's off
But
traveling.
yeah, she's in the Berkshires.
Good. She said, it was such a love story, and it was a story about marriage. And I said, you know what? Thank you, Barbara, because after I read this, that's what it is. It's a story about marriage.
Yes, it
You
is.
have a lot of anecdotes that you gave, your children gave, family and friends gave, but it's a story about your connection.
Yes.
What made your marriage so strong?
Well, of course, to begin with, we shared the same background. We spoke the same dialect, among other things.
Okay, let's be specific. What kind of background?
Okay, well, we're both first-generation Americans. Our parents emigrated from the Italian Dolomites,
Right,
the
right,
Italian
right.
Alps, few villages a few miles apart, but
Mm-hmm.
the same dialect, which, by the way, was very, very strong in Clifton at the time.
Oh, okay.
Sacred Heart Church was built by our predecessors.
Oh, interesting.
And in fact,
Dolomiti.
Dolomiti.
See.
And my generation is still trying to keep the dialect alive.
That's great. That's
which
great.
is difficult. But
It's-
we're
yeah,
trying
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So, but yeah, and actually it's interesting because I did not meet her officially until I returned from the service in 1954.
Wow.
What happened was we lived literally 2 blocks apart, but she went to another elementary school. So I never knew her,
Right.
although I knew who her parents were. I knew her by looks, but I never had spoken to her or met her
Right.
because we just weren't in the same groups.
Right.
So ironically, I go to college. I get out of college during the Korean War,
Yes.
and I wind up being sent to Germany. And when I came back in February of '54, by the way, that was just a week after our famous pastor there, Father Felix Perla, died. By the way, many people don't know this, but he is buried right in front of that church.
Oh, really? I didn't
He got
realize
special
that.
permission. He was a terrific pastor.
That's great. Father
But,
Felix.
yeah,
Yeah.
but anyway, what happened was by the way, at that time, she was going steady with someone planning to get married. And I was going with someone.
Not good.
I was going together with a girl named Joyce. So the day after I got back was a Saturday. My best man heard I was home. He called me. My best man, his name is Bruno Di Tosto. We used to call him Red. Red called me and said, Dick, he said, I'm happy you're back. We're having oh, by the way, when I was in college, I helped found the young adults group in Sacred Heart Church,
Oh,
the Sacred Heart
nice,
Social
nice,
Club. I was
nice.
one of the founders.
Great.
I'm happy to say. And at that time, Dora was not in the club.
Okay.
So, I didn't see her.
And your age? What?
About 2.5, we're about 2.5 years apart.
And how old were you then when you came back from Korea?
I was 20, let's see, 50, I was 23 and
Okay.
a half, actually, when
Okay.
I came back in
Okay.
1954. So anyway, he invited me to the communion breakfast. I called my girlfriend, asked her if she wanted to go. She said, no, I'll see you later. So I go, and who do I sit across from? This very attractive young lady. Very, very, I loved her voice from the beginning. She had such a smooth voice, you can't believe. Anyway, but very attractive, very gentle, very kindly spoken, and very well dressed. I found out later she was a dress designer. But anyway.
Yes. We'll talk about that.
And so I said hello. But then I got active in the social club again, and within a month or so they decided I'd be president. So I arranged a whole bunch of events, and we started going to those. But over those 4 months, the next 4 months, Dora decided the man she was dating was not the one for her. I decided for another reason that the lady wasn't really the one for me, and we started to date.
You and Dora.
Yeah.
How did you get in touch with her?
Well, I would see her at the meetings.
Okay,
And
okay.
at one point, I said, Dora, I broke my semi-engagement. She said, that's funny, I did too. And I said, would you like to go out with me? She said, okay. So I went with her.
That's right.
The first date was almost a disaster because I was, at that point, my parents had moved to the Lakeview section in Clifton.
Yes.
And I was a member of St. Brendan's, and I was very friendly with Father Rugel.
Right, right. Oh, was he there then?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, wow.
And so he said they were having a get-together, so I invited Dora to come with me. Unfortunately, as soon as I got there, he hadn't seen me in 2 years. He said, Dick, can I talk to you for a couple of minutes?
I remember that.
So I
Mr.
sat
Go
Dora
ahead, tell
down,
about-
and then I wound up for like half hour. When I got back, she was obviously not happy. So
Great
when I
date.
got her home, I said, Dora, I said, I hope you don't think that's the normal me. Please forgive me. Give me a second chance. And she did. But it didn't take long before we realized that between our common background and, more important, because of our common interest, because we had a lot of interest in art, in music, in opera in particular.
That's great.
Okay, and in a lot of things, you know.
Yes.
And so, and also we discovered when we started getting serious that we both had a similar idea. We said, you know what? When we raise a family, we want to raise a large family. We.
Planning ahead.
We want to raise a large family, and we just want them to be responsible, sharing people.
Good.
And thank God, that's the way it's been
God
working
bless
out.
you, yeah.
So,
And you were
that's
both
all.
Catholic?
We're both Catholic. Although, frankly, there's a story beyond that you'd have to read my story, which I was not an active Catholic once I got my confirmation.
Oh, man.
And by the
that's
time
way.
I got to NYU, I almost became an atheist
Of
because all the stuff in NYU in
Yeah.
that area, that's a whole other story.
Kids go through that.
But then
It's
I
transition.
slowly came around and
You
said,
came
you know
back.
what? Despite all of the historical problems we had with the church per se, I think that's where I belong, and then I got
Excellent.
more active.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent.
and that's
And Susan,
really-
that's an important fact for all of us because kids go through that. So don't get crazy when your kids come back and they're atheists, they have rings in their ears or crazy things like that. Leave it. Let it go. Stay with them. Stay faithful to them, and they will stay faithful to you. And then you open the door of your heart and welcome them back. And that's
And
what
that's
happened
what
to you. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent. Okay, so you're organizing these social events in St.
Right.
Brendan's.
Well, and of course, then this was for the social club, by the way.
Yes.
Anyway, so we decided, okay, we'll get married. We started dating in April of 1954. By early 55, we said, let's set a date.
Oh.
So we set a date in September, and we got married on September 10, 1955.
Wow.
And at the time, Dora was the dress designer for Fruit of the Loom. Now, younger people would not know this, but Fruit of the Loom, back in the 50s, had a women's clothing line
Oh,
that
interesting.
was marketed as a sort of a, you know, they have the underwriters later for electrical stuff.
Yes.
They had some sort of a label that qualified. That was a quality label.
Isn't that interesting?
And so she designed dresses for about 3 years, and this was her third year designing. But when we married, she said, "I don't want to wait. Let's start the family right away. I'm going to give up my career." And by the way, I was just working on my first job, so she was making more money than me. But we said, "Well, look, we're willing to sacrifice. You know, we'll get an apartment. We'll do our best. We'll both work, and then as soon as we have our first child and get enough money, we'll buy a house." And that's what we really were doing.
Wow, you were really planning.
We were planning.
That's
yeah, so,
great.
And so by
So what does that say to our young people today who are contemplating marriage? What advice would you give? I mean, think of what worked for you. And how many years were you married?
56.
56. What worked for you in the beginning? You were talking to each other, obviously.
Well, yeah.
So
of course,
communications.
we had so much in common, and we also had this common interest in not only raising children, but really spending a lot of time helping them grow.
Okay, so
Because Dora said, once I have my
Good.
children, I'm going to concentrate on them.
good.
And that's what she did.
Connection with the children, very, very
Absolutely.
important.
Yep.
The attachment is so important.
Right, because with my boys, I have 3 boys, I got each of them involved in the Boy Scouts. By the way, I was never a Boy Scout because I grew up rather poor in the neighborhood. We looked down on Boy Scouts. We thought they were sissies. and ironically,
That's only in the past.
as an adult, I spent 14 years as a Scout leader.
Okay, that's good. You redeemed
with all three
yourself.
of my boys.
Good.
So, and even with a couple of my girls, we had
How many girls?
Indian Princess, but there were two of them. That was a wide program. So, well, I have the 5 girls and 3 boys.
Yes.
So, but, as each of them grew, we kept, by the way, Dora, as soon as they could look at a book, she took them to the library.
Yes.
It started when they were like 2. She would take them all to the library, go through all the children's books and show them pictures and begin to help them to read.
What was her education? Her background?
Well, high school, and she had a certificate from a design school, from what is now the in New York City, it's College of
FIT?
FIT.
Oh,
Yeah,
FIT.
Fashion is Through Technology.
Yeah,
This was a
whoa.
predecessor. She got a certificate from them and was immediately hired, and that was in '52. And then she started designing. In fact, after she died, she had a big file, a lot of stuff we never looked at. When she died, I started going through it. I found 42 positives, not negatives, positives of models who were modeling her dresses.
That's
And I have that
fantastic.
collection. Well, I made copies for all my children, of course.
Yeah.
But it was amazing that in only 3 years, she actually had over 42 designs selling in the market, being advertised, by the way, in Time and Look.
Wow. Right. Time is with us.
So,
Look at
I mean,
them
she
now,
was, and if she had stayed, I'm sure she would have made us millionaires. But obviously, that was the furthest thing from our
She made you
lives.
more than a millionaire.
Well, absolutely, because again, our only interest in money was let's get enough to raise a family. And that's what we had in mind.
Okay, we're going to pause right. That's a good spot to pause at. Enough to raise a family, and then you kept adding on. But there's so many aspects of this story. I want to go back to it. Okay, this is part 1, the Dora story. It's Rich De Luca talking about his wife Dora, but it's her story, and you hear the connections and the value of marriage, love, communication, and focus. This is Father Lou. Come back to part 2 of Dora's story. Thank you for joining us.